We're just playing the waiting game at this point. Are the Boozer twins going to commit to Duke basketball? Will the Blue Devils pick up a class of 2025 commitment? These are big questions. We're just waiting on answers.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you so much for being here with us today on Thursday, October 10th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We talk a lot of Duke basketball, and that's the case once again here today. We're talking recruiting. We're talking about the upcoming season and so much more with our good pal Kevin Conley from Durham. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. The algorithms love those written reviews, and I appreciate when you take the time to leave one of those each and every day. You can watch the show as well on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel as we continue to climb towards 3,000 subscribers. Excited to dive into today's show, where you can follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So we bring him on into today's program. It is our good pal Kevin Conley. And Kevin, I hope that you're doing well here today.
I'm doing very well, JJ. How about yourself?
I can't complain, man. Glad that basketball season is back in so many regards. We got to see Countdown to Craziness this past Friday. The Duke Blue Devils made their media tour run yesterday at ACC tip-off in Charlotte, and here we are waiting for more and more recruiting things. So it really does feel like, dude, basketball is here. We're close.
Yeah, we have like the sprint to the start of the season now, right? You go back a couple of weeks. Duke had their local media day. Then they went into Countdown to Craziness. Now they just had ACC media day. We get a scrimmage coming up in about a week and a half, another scrimmage coming up at the end of the month. And then before you know it, November 4th, they'll be here and they'll be taking the court for real against Maine. So, yeah, we're in that 100-meter sprint right now to the start of the regular season, and it feels great that basketball is finally back.
Without a doubt. I'm so excited to have basketball back, and Duke basketball at that. Good to see Countdown Craziness come and go, and also a lot of people this time of year want to know, well, with Duke basketball being back, does that mean Duke recruiting is back? Does this mean we finally get to hear some news with the class of 2025? Still no commitments with this Duke basketball program. Today was the day rumored that there could be some Boozer twin news. It's an early morning here on this Thursday, Kevin. Maybe it's coming later today. We don't really know, but as it stands right now, there has been ghost silence, radio silence from the Boozer twins.
Well, yeah, you look at recruiting, you had a handful of players at Countdown to Craziness. That's always exciting to see those recruits get the first Cameron experience of the season. But yes, obviously, it is the Boozer twins. That's what everybody's looking for here today. Will it come out later this afternoon or later this evening? Last week, obviously, they had those initial reports that it was going to be Thursday, October 10th of the two of them committing, Cameron and Cayden Boozer. Then yesterday, we had a couple of reports saying it's still very close. Some recruiting insiders saying it wouldn't surprise them if they didn't commit today, and it came a little bit later in the month. That's still to be seen. I think a lot of people are still hoping that those initial reports are accurate. The timeline is still true, and you're going to get a commitment between either Duke or Miami later today from the Boozer twins.
Yeah, so maybe it comes tomorrow. Maybe it doesn't. We just hope that it goes in Duke's direction. This is the big place to start when you're building out the roster for next year's team. And this is a Duke basketball program that has had so much success in the recruiting worlds over the last decade plus. And it's strange, man, to know that the countdown came and went. No commitments. Went to ACC tip-off. No commitments. Duke, again, just one of 3 teams in the ACC that does not have a single commitment yet in the class of 2025. And hopefully that changes here either today or these next few days when we hear from Cameron and Cayden Boozer.
Although, when you look at ACC tip-off yesterday, perhaps Duke fans trying to read between the lines a little bit with Carlos Boozer obviously there covering ACC media tip-off for the ACC network. John Shire was on the set with him and Mark Packer, and they're going over how this team's going to look, the daunting schedule, how everything's going to come together. And then Mark Packer made a comment about recruiting, and John Shire's like, I'm not going to say anything about that. And him and Carlos Boozer, you're trying to read their looks and read their faces, and then, a dap up at the end of it, both giving a little bit of a wry smile and a smirk. So I think a lot of Duke fans are trying to read a little bit into that interaction, that interview for the Duke head coach.
Because it's been like a foregone conclusion in so many ways that Duke was going to be this until the very end. And in some ways, a lot of people are very confident that it was going to go in Duke's direction and that it will go in that direction. Again, we don't know anything as of yet, but when you're talking about Carlos Boozer, a decorated player for the Duke basketball team, winning a national championship as a player, and then going on to have a successful NBA career, all of a sudden he's got sons that are some of the best players in the country. The Duke connection should be pretty obvious, but as the years have gone along, the last couple of months really heating up this recruiting cycle, a lot of people focusing on the Boozers' relationship with their mother, who they live with throughout the week, and, her possibly being kind of the big decision maker or a big momentum shift in how this thing all plays out.
Yes, certainly. And I think there's a lot of aspects to look at this recruitment. That is certainly one of them that you bring up. Obviously, you know that their father is involved in their recruitment and in their basketball lives somehow. How could he not be? But then you look at the schools that were involved, and I think, honestly, the big three, and this is going back a couple of months now, even into last season, that felt like they were really in on the Boozer twins, was Florida, Miami, and Kentucky. And then obviously John Calipari leaves to go to Arkansas, and Kentucky backs off. And you wonder if Arkansas is going to try to make a charge for them with John Calipari. And I think they might have visited there, but it never really formulated, right? And then it becomes Duke, Miami, and Florida. And that's the three schools over the last month or so, month to month and a half, that everybody's been talking about. And then you get closer to where we are today, and it's Duke and Miami. Florida now kind of that third school. They're pretty much out of the picture. So you look at Duke and Miami very close to their home. And obviously in Miami, you could make a name for yourself there. I'm under the assumption that they have a very strong NIL program. How could you not, given your campus and the weather and the beautiful city that is Miami? And then you look at Durham, and Duke is one of those top four, probably even higher, you could say top two, or the top college basketball program in the country, both currently and historically. Their father went there. He won a national championship there. He's in the School Athletics Hall of Fame, and continue that last name legacy that you have at Duke. And obviously their NIL is just as strong as anybody in the country that everybody knows. So it's certainly exciting. It's really fun to talk about. And I think it's a little bit bigger for Duke because they don't have those commitments yet in 2025. And perhaps in a couple of hours, they could have two of them.
Well, let's keep talking about it. Let's keep talking about what this could mean for Duke basketball, the type of players they are, and so much more. Again, now we're 9 days away from a Duke basketball game against another team. They've got an exhibition coming up. All of that and more still ahead on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, it's easier to save more. The all-in pricing that you can turn on lets you see the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. I love the seat views as well, where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. It's the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Here we are on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson alongside Kevin Conley. It's ACC tip-off week. Saw the Blue Devils go through Media Row yesterday, taking interviews with all various outlets and getting some quotes. We mentioned the segment that they had on the ACC network where John Shire is sitting at the desk with Carlos Boozer, his twin sons, obviously the focal point of the recruiting world right now. Miami, the other big school in the hunt. We might want to watch what happens on the desk with Miami there. However, the Hurricanes have had to cancel their trip there to Charlotte with Hurricane Milton coming through the area. So certainly our thoughts and prayers are with the entire Sunshine State hurricane season, leaving such an impact. Hurricane Helene has left such an impact still here in the Carolinas. But unfortunately, we're not going to get to kind of speculate what that setup would look like, because we would, Kevin. If we were given the opportunity right now to see Carlos Boozer interact with Jim Larrañaga, we would certainly do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously a really tough scene for the University of Miami and all the surrounding parts in Florida that are going to get hit with this hurricane. The same thing goes out to the Carolinas with the hurricane that just came through last week. So obviously tough times down in that southeastern part of the United States, hoping everybody stays safe and is able to avoid the storm. But getting back to the part where what we love so much in basketball and breaking down these interactions and these segments, we certainly would. If Jim Larrañaga was at the desk with Carlos Boozer on the day that it's anticipated that his sons are going to commit to either Duke or Miami, it would certainly be fun to break down that interaction. I would imagine Jim Larrañaga would be up on the desk and at the podium with these media outlets before that announcement would be made. But yeah, certainly you can't fault them at all for not making the trip and not wanting to risk travel in the middle of a potential very severe hurricane to hit the state of Florida. So all the best goes out to them and their team and the University of Miami and everybody in the Sunshine State this week.
Again, you and I are reading every story that's out there right now for the Boozer twins and their commitment, what it could mean for both of these teams. There's been speculation at times, I think that's all it is, that maybe there's a world, Kevin, where the twins do not end up playing at the same school. But all the chatter over the last week, 2 weeks, honestly going on about 2.5, 3 weeks, it feels pretty certain at this point that no, for sure, these two twin brothers are going to want to play together at the same school.
Yeah, I think that was the conversation a little bit earlier in their recruitment, that it was possible that Cameron and Cayden could go on 2 separate paths, committing to 2 different schools, but that doesn't seem like it is the case anymore. It seems like they are a package deal. They are going to play at the same school next season. Now, I do think it does become a little bit more interesting for the following season because Cameron certainly seems like a lock, one and done, probably a top 5 pick in, what would that be, the 2026 NBA draft.
Sure.
And given how Cayden is a very good point guard, very cerebral, can do a lot of things, but I don't know if he's that one and done type. If he could only spend 1 year in college and then go on to the NBA and enter the NBA draft. So I do think that becomes a little bit more interesting what they do probably 12 to 18 months from now. But I do think it's certain that they are going to commit to the same school whenever they do, in fact, announce their decision.
Hopefully it's to Duke. Hopefully they end up committing to Duke to join the Brotherhood. Talked to the week so far. Big fan of the Another One video that the Duke social media staff always puts out when we get a commitment. I keep asking myself, Kevin, do we get 2 of those videos if they commit? Like, how in the world is Duke's social media staff going to handle this? I know it's going to be a home run, however they choose to do that.
It certainly is, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I think they were just boasting about how many videos and views and interactions they got over the past week at Countdown to Craziness, and how it surpassed even some football schools getting their views over the past weekend of games. So Duke men's basketball social media team is certainly one of the best in not just college, but all of sports. Even you go to the professional route, Duke men's basketball is a focal point of online social media content, and they always do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Love what the Duke basketball team is able to do on the media front. So at Countdown to Craziness, the Boozer twins weren't the only players that the recruiting spotlight was on, as a couple of players were in attendance with Shelton Henderson, Acaden Lewis, Nate Ament, 3 guys that Duke has on their radar in this class of 2025. three players that still consider themselves possibly playing for Duke University one day.
Yeah, certainly. And I think all three of those players are at certain stages in their commitment, some further along than others. Nate Ament, has been very high on this Duke basketball coaching staff wish list since early in his high school recruitment days. Acaden Lewis is now dwindling his process down. I believe he's only down 2-3 schools, cutting North Carolina. He was actually supposed to be at North Carolina last weekend and cut them from his top 4 and went to Duke instead. I think it's UConn and Kentucky who's also recruiting him. I think he's actually going to be at Kentucky this weekend for their Big Blue Madness of their tip-off event. And then Shelton Henderson, who has a lot of suitors after him. Duke is one of them, and it's not going to be easy for Duke to land any of these prospects, but it's John Shire just trying to keep the ball rolling in this recruiting cycle. He said he's not going to have any more of these 5, 6, 7, 8-man freshman recruiting classes. So in comparison, you're not going to have as many commitments throughout the year, right? But now once you're starting to see the high school basketball season get closer, a lot of these top players want these decisions off their mind so they could just focus on basketball. So they go through the AAU process and EYBL circuit and Adidas circuit the summer. The recruitment really picks up end of the summer to the early fall. They make their decision pretty much before Halloween, and then they could totally focus on their season and their final year of high school basketball to win, whether it be a state championship, a national championship, whatever their high school plays. So I think you're going to see a lot of 2025 recruits commit over the next 3 to 4 weeks, not just to the Duke basketball program, but a lot of other programs around the country as well.
So we're going to be on the lookout for all of that and so much more. Again, recruiting news, hopefully a good bit of it in volume is right around the corner, and hopefully it's good updates for the Duke basketball team. All right, we'll take our last time out here on today's show and start to wrap things up after this. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sports book. So when you get in the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet tonight in the NFL. Thursday night football and NFC West matchup. I love these division games we've been getting as of late on Thursday nights. We've got the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks tonight, and San Francisco favored by 3.5 on the road. Go get involved. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Back on the show here today, Kevin Conley's with me. He's from Ball, Durham. You can follow him on X at KevinConley24. Tell us about your website, Kevin.
Well, over at Ball Durham, we got everything you could possibly want on Duke athletics, specifically Duke football and Duke basketball. Now that Duke basketball season is here, the content is going to be free-flowing over at balldurham.com on these Blue Devils. Obviously, we cover them throughout the year, but once October hits, it's really full steam ahead from October. And really now with how the transfer portal works to the end of May, we go nonstop on Duke basketball. So come follow us on social media, ball_Durham, and then you can follow us on Twitter. You can come read us every day at balldurham.com and follow us on Twitter at ball_Durham.
All right, check it all out. We're now 9 days away from an exhibition game being played. So we'll have to watch blue and white. We'll get to see kind of the rotations that this coaching staff is able to put together for the Blue Devils when they take on Lincoln College out of Pennsylvania. What do these next couple of days look like for the Duke basketball team? Or if you're head coach John Shire, what questions do you still have about your bunch? What's on your mind as you get set for these final tune-ups before the regular season starts?
Yeah, for a coach, you never rest. You're always thinking about something and needing something to do, and your team's never perfect. So over this next week and a half, I'm curious when you're playing a Division II school, and even when you play Arizona State at the end of the month, how much game planning goes into that, because you don't have a lot of film on this specific team, because even at the Division II level, the team changes over from year to year. So I'm wondering how much game planning is going to go into these two exhibition games, but it's certainly going to be good to see this Duke team get out there and play somebody new. I think you could certainly game plan for yourself on the offensive side of the ball and drawing up plays and wanting to execute plays. And defensively, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Duke mix up the defense, play some man, pressure, play some zone. Just try to get a little accustomed to doing a little bit of everything on the floor in a game where the final score does not matter. So that's what I'm expecting to see in the two scrimmages. I think it's good that if I take a look here at my calendar, you have about a week, just over a week in between your first scrimmage and your second scrimmage, with that first scrimmage coming on October 19th and the other one coming on October 27th. And then you'll have another week before the start of the season. So good time to watch film, learn, get out there against another opponent who's going to try to beat you, and learn from those experiences.
Yeah, certainly don't want to drop a game against a Division II opponent, and would love to be able to pick up that win against Arizona State. I think a lot of people are going to be curious what the lineup looks like after Countdown to Craziness. I'm seeing a lot of people kind of settling in on Caleb Foster, Tyrese Proctor, Con Knipple, Cooper Flagg, and then Common Maluwach for the starting five for the Duke basketball team. Is that kind of what you've summarized here, Kevin? Is there somebody else on the outside looking in? Too early to tell? What do you think? Because starting five chatter is what we're hearing a lot of.
No, that's what I would agree as well. And I kind of came to that assumption a little bit before Countdown, and watching the Duke Blue Planet videos and seeing who was on the court at the same time and wearing the same jerseys. And then obviously that got a little bit clear as we got into Countdown. But no, I completely agree with that starting five. I think in Countdown, the scrimmage, you really saw what Con has done and how impressive he looks and how he does just a little bit of everything on the floor. And then obviously you get the rim protection with the big 7'1" center at the back. And then obviously your two returners and the star Cooper Flagg all reaching that starting five. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a starting five we see in 9 days against Lincoln in that first exhibition.
Absolutely excited to see the Duke basketball team in action. Got a couple of notes here before we get out of here. You just said starting five, popped on my brain just a moment ago, but we can see Jason Tatum in a feature called Starting Five that's now been released on Netflix. Their take, all access over the past basketball season. Jason Tatum, one of the five players, hence the name Starting Five, that took part in the documentary. I tell you what, Netflix has gotten a lot of praise over the last 3, 4, 5 years with their sports documentary footage, the all access that they have, and Duke fans love every single piece of content that you can find on Jason Tatum. And it's like his summer, his year 2024, and the spotlight continues, Kevin.
Yeah, it certainly has, and it culminates in an NBA championship. So I'm actually really looking forward to watching that. Watched quarterback, watched wide receiver. I know they've had a couple of these documentaries going in season. If you look at the United States women's national soccer team, last World Cup, they had something on them.
Full swing in the golf world. Yeah, they've done a lot.
Yeah, full swing, break point. I've watched all that stuff. So really looking forward to watching this with some big name NBA players. And who knows, as we dive into it, you'll maybe see some content on it up at balldurham.com.
And this really shouldn't surprise a whole lot of people, but, you know, we talked NBA storylines a couple of weeks ago. As training camps and media days were getting up and going, now we're in the heart of preseason. Jared McCain is getting a whole lot of praise from the NBA world, sliding onto a 76ers team that will be contending with Jason Tatum's Boston Celtics. But this should be no surprise to Duke fans. It's reassuring, though, to know that, I think Jared McCain's going to have quite a large role to begin his rookie season.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And he was an easy kid to root for at Duke, a fan favorite, so personable. And he's going to jump right into the spotlight of a city where it's not easy to play, in Philadelphia. And if you don't perform well, and if you don't perform quickly, especially as a rookie, those fans are going to get on you and they're going to let you know about it. So there's a lot of pressure on playing for the Philadelphia 76ers. And as one of the teams that's expected to contend in the Eastern Conference, hopefully Jared McCain translates this play over to the regular season, starts hot, and keeps things rolling for that Philadelphia team who's looking to get back to the conference finals.
We need someone to ask Jared McCain his thoughts on the introductions we just saw last week at Countdown to Craziness. I think he'd be a little disappointed,
I
Kevin.
think he'd be very disappointed.
Yeah.
No one really broke out any dance moves, and we know how Jared loved the dance moves and how you could probably say that Countdown was his favorite part of the season because he really got to let the personality show even more. And I think he'd be very disappointed at some of these players for their introductions.
And it was contagious last year, right? It was just a whole lot of that on last year's squad because of the life and charisma that Jared McCain had. I think he's probably pleased. Stanley Borden stealing the show once again. It's a countdown to craziness tradition, much like Christian Reeves playing incredibly well. Now he's off playing for Clemson. But, yeah, man, it's countdown was fun. We talked so much about the intros, and good to see these guys play on the court as well.
Yeah, it certainly was. And, again, you're just hoping for a little bit more of some of that personality. But as long as they play well once they get on the court for real, no one's going to care what they did or didn't do at Countdown.
If they're standing on business and that means, championships and sights on sticks, we're all for it. So, Kevin, so good to see you as always. I want people to go check out Ball Durham, balldurham.com, and we'll do this again next week, all right?
Can't wait, JJ. Thanks, buddy.
All right, that's Kevin Conley joining us once again on the show as he does each and every week. Go check out his work. It's really remarkable coverage. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get some Boozer Twin news throughout the day, maybe throughout the weekend. Stay tuned for that. We're back at it again tomorrow, a Friday show coming your way tomorrow here on Locked On Blue Devils. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.